Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaceTurn with Candace Cordelia. I'm your host, Candace Cordelia. As you can see, we have a different type of, I almost said layup. I don't know why, or layout, rather. So I am beaming to you from StreamYard. We are learning and testing out something new, but I am super excited for the guest that I have for you today. You've probably seen her recently taking quite a nasty bump for the SCI 2022, and we'll get into that for sure. But what you've also potentially have seen her doing is accomplishing many feats within just a huge amount of different wrestling promotions, including Mission Pro, GCW, Paradigm Pro Wrestling, and so much more. She made not only our PWI 500 lists of 2021, but our Women's 150 list of 2021 as well. She is known as none other than Billie Starkz. Billie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Sorry for the lengthy introduction, but I just wanted to do that solid for you because you've accomplished so much in your short tenure as a pro wrestler, but definitely have accomplished a lot this year in 2022. So I can't wait. I'm so happy that we finally gotten to talk for my show, and we've crossed paths before at Mission Pro, but you've been rocking and rolling, this since we've even seen each other in May. So kudos to you. Congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you so much. I feel like I've been so busy this summer, but it's been so fun.
It looks like you've been having a blast, and that's what it's all about, right? Having fun and just enjoying yourself in this crazy world of pro wrestling. You're my first guest. I'm doing this Rising Star series pretty much for PWI, and you're the first guest that I've had for this series thus far. And I'm just super honored to be able to have you on the show for this series. I've talked a lot about just not even a third of your accomplishments that you've had in your nearly 4-year career. But I want to take it all the way back to the beginning, and to just talk about where you're from and how you got started. So my first question really for you, Billie, is how did you get started in pro wrestling?
So I started my training in March of 2018, but I was introduced to wrestling through my stepfather, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, and it stuck in my head. And then when I was 13, I found a place called Grindhouse, and I started training there. And yeah, it's it was very out of nowhere for me because in my head I was like, oh, I have to be 18 to go train. I have to do this. I have to wait. And then it came so abruptly that I was like, oh, I can actually do this now. And I was very lucky that my parents were very supportive and let me go live my dream, and I'm still doing it.
You make it sound so simple, Billie. You're like, I had a dream, I saw it, and it came true, which is phenomenal. But, being 13 in this business, that's a lot. That seems like there's a lot of pressure. When you first started getting into training for pro wrestling, I understand you also have a cheerleading background, which I assume helped you as well. But when you first started at such a tender age, what were your first thoughts about training and being in the ring and going through the rigors of that?
I knew it's what I wanted, but at the time I was like, am I truly prepared for like what this intakes? And there was like times where like I was training and I was like, okay, I can actually do this. Because my trainers were very, very very cooperative with me. They would see I would struggle with something and take time out of the class, even though everybody else is way ahead of me. They would still take their time and be like, okay, here, let's fix this, let's do this. And I feel like that's what kept me going because they really did want the best for me, even though I sucked at times. They would keep pushing me and wanted the best, and I could feel that. And I feel like cheerleading helped prepare me for that a lot of the time. Because there was a lot of things in cheerleading I could not do because I'm not very athletic. A lot of the things I do, I've had to like practice and practice and practice. And my father even makes fun of me because I still refuse to do like any backflips or anything because I have like this fear of going backwards. I don't know why. When I like go backwards, I'm like, this isn't right. I need to see where I'm going.
Oh, that's fascinating to hear. Coming from cheerleading, there are some preconceived notions. I personally know that cheerleaders, they are athletes. To me, they're athletes. And it's really fascinating to hear that you didn't consider yourself a very athletic person. What were some of the similarities that you noticed having that background of cheerleading and doing cheerleading versus doing pro wrestling, or rather just getting to learn the moves and just the athleticism of that sport alone?
I feel like cheerleading helped with like the technique a lot, but it also hurt when like you're supposed to be relaxed for certain things, and cheerleading you're always supposed to be very super sharp at all times. So that was always built in my head. So like my trainers used to joke like every time I would do a forward roll, I come up and like squeeze. And they're like, nope, you can relax. It's just forward roll, stand up. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
But cheerleading definitely helped with like my mindset of like you just need to keep working, and things will progress. And then also a lot of the basing because I was a base for stunts most of the time, so it like made sense how to base for wrestling, even though it's a little different. Like it clicked faster for me, and I think it was due to cheerleading and stuff like that.
Wow, that's really cool. Do you still do cheerleading, or are you just strictly all wrestling all day?
I did cheerleading while wrestling for like my first year of wrestling. But there was too much conflict, like especially with the weekends. If I wanted to go do a cheer competition, I couldn't do a wrestling show. If I had a wrestling show, I couldn't do a cheer competition. So I finally was like, okay, I need to make a decision, and wrestling is what I truly want. So I did full time wrestling, and that's how it's been for a while.
Wow, that's really cool. And you're juggling a pro wrestling career and being in high school. And I know when I was in high school, I, I played sports, I played field hockey and basketball, and I was active, but being a pro wrestler is a completely different, just a whole different field, a whole different thing. And you're actually a business and you're an entrepreneur in and of yourself. What is it like for you carving out this pro wrestling career and juggling that with being a regular high school student?
Honestly, it seems normal for me because like I've always been doing wrestling while I've been in high school. And I've been very lucky that like most of my teachers are super understanding. Like, hey, I just got out of a 12-hour car ride and still showed up for school, so please don't kill me today. And most of them are like, oh my god, okay, you can go sleep in the corner over there if you need to. And I'm like, let me just do my work and get out of here so I can get home and sleep in my bed. Um, but I've been very lucky with my school, that I've missed so many days, but still have really good grades because I communicate with my teachers and I'm like, this is my schedule. I'm doing the work I can. Please give me time to make this stuff up. And a lot of people are very supportive because they can see like what I'm doing is truly what I want to do and it makes me happy. And then I'm still doing what I'm responsible for, like school, my grades, all the shenanigans.
All the shenanigans. Well, I'm really impressed at the fact, one, that you're going to a school that encourages what you're doing outside of your academics, because a lot of kids don't, they just don't have that experience. They can't just go and say, hey, so I was doing this outside of my regular school schedule. Can I go sleep in the corner? The teacher would say, what are you talking about? You need to take your test, do this. What do you mean? Like you have your life out of school and then your school life. So that's really impressive that you have that support and that encouragement, not just from your parents, but also from your teachers. What do your friends who aren't pro wrestlers, what do they think about this life that you have?
I get called crazy a lot of the times because my friends will see videos and clips and be like, "What are you doing?" Or they'll be scared. They're like, "Why are you doing this? You have to come hang out this week." And I was like, it's fine. I'll see you guys soon." But they always check in on me and they think like it's very fun and interesting and they're very into it. But I think most of my friends have been around since I've started that have been super close to me. And they've always just been like, oh, go kill it this weekend, do this, go have fun. And I'm lucky that like I miss so much time away from home a lot of the times. I don't get to see my friends. And when I am home, I like want to rest and like recover. But they're always like, no, go take time to yourself. We'll hang out with you when you have time. And I think it's because they're all very active too. They have jobs, and then they're also doing high school sports, and some of them are getting prepared for college. So I'm like, we're all living our lives, but we're there to support each other when we need it.
Mhm. You remind me of when I read interviews of artists, actors, young actors that they just knew they had a idea of what they wanted to do, and they knew that they were quote unquote different from their peers. And from the outside looking in, it can seem very strange because there are so many kids who they don't know what they want to do when they grow up, and they do the standard go to school, go to college, figure it out, get a job. For someone like yourself that just seemed to know what you wanted to do and knew that you wanted to have a different life, because the life of a pro wrestler is different. It's not a quote unquote normal life, but then again, what is normal? So as you are going through this career that you have as a pro wrestler, I mean, it sounds like you don't have any regrets about, being a quote unquote normal kid, but have there been any times where maybe you look back and you thought, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, maybe I missed out on doing this, or it seems like you're just comfortable with the life that you've chosen?
There has been times where I felt like guilty because I'm out wrestling and I felt like I should have been home for things. Like my best friend's birthday, and I was like, I promised him, I was like, I will be there, and I like marked it on my schedule and was like, I will not take a wrestling show this day. It was a Saturday. And then like 2 weeks out, I found out like there was a really, really big show, and I had to like, text my friend and I was like, hey, there's this show. He's like, go do it, go have fun. I will always be here. The show is one day. My birthday's one day, but you'll see me next year. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm glad I have the people in my life that understand this is what I want to do, and will still push me and do what I want to do. And it was hard for me in like the moment, but seeing it now, we like talked about it after, and he was like, my party was lame anyways, and you went and did cool things on the weekend. And it was kind of like one of those moments where I was like, okay, wrestling is worth it sometimes, even though it doesn't seem like it in the moment.
That's so beautiful. It's nice to know that you have friends that care and support you. And I have a feeling down the line you'll make it up to him. You'll get him WWE tickets or wherever you might land, and he'll just be cool with it and still support you. And speaking of WWE, you're, as we've been talking about, you're still in high school, but I can only imagine that at some point in your career you're going to start thinking about even bigger things, and bigger meaning going to a big promotion. Is that something that you are thinking about now, or that you have a goal for, an idea of doing in the future?
I definitely, it's on my mind because all I want from wrestling is to have fun and also make a living out of it. And I would love to be at a bigger company, um, if that's where life takes me. But I honestly just love what I'm doing right now. So if the opportunity arises, I'll probably take it, but it's probably going to be some time before then. At least in my mind, I'm like, I don't expect anything until it happens. And my mom always says that, like, I'm very like, until it happens, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
Um, and she saw like that today when I got some big news. There's big things in the works, and I'm very excited for it. Can't give away anything yet.
Oh, as long as we know that there's big news, that's all that matters, right? But I'm gonna ask you after this interview. I'm very intrigued, very intrigued. Field, but that's super exciting. And I noticed that on social media, you have a big social media following. I noticed on Twitter alone that you went to this year's SummerSlam, and I'm not sure if that was your first WWE SummerSlam, but you looked to be having a blast. It looked like you were very just in the moment and loved it. What was it like for you being there and seeing some of the wrestlers that you stated in other interviews you look up to, and just seeing them in the ring live and in person like that?
It was a very, very fun time. Like that entire weekend, it was like Nashville weekend. So I was just surrounded by wrestling like the entire week. And it was nice to like watch a show and like be a fan for once.
Mm.
And definitely with like a lot of the performers, like you already stated that I've looked up to, and they just put on a great show because like I'm very nitpicky when I like go to watch wrestling, and I was like, I can't go anywhere. This is a live event. I'm stuck if it sucks. Um, and it actually was very good. And I was like entertained the entire time. I ended up going with like Mouse, Trevor Outlaw, and Cole, and they were so fun to be around because Cole is a big Pat McAfee fan, and this man was just in love during his entrance, and I was like, this is so entertaining just to watch him. But it was just a really good show, and it was very fun to actually watch and sit down and be a fan for once.
That's really awesome. And we got to get into GCW and just talk about that. You mentioned Cole, and it seems very tight knit. There seems to be a type of family atmosphere. And I went to my first GCW show back in Vegas when I was there for AEW Double or Nothing, and I saw you there, and I saw a lot of your peers like Nick Wayne, and just the atmosphere is electrifying, and you can see the passion that everyone has in the ring, and it's very raw and just very in your face. What was it like for you having your first GCW match and walking away from it thinking, I'm here, I'm at this promotion that a lot of people didn't believe in, to be honest, and now it's just so popular within independent wrestling. What were your thoughts about that?
My like GCW debut, it was like kind of out of nowhere. It was just like, oh, go grab your stuff from the car. We need somebody. And I was like, okay. But like for the longest time, I had a friend who was like, they don't use women. You'll never get on there. And he wasn't trying to be like demeaning, but he was trying to be like honest and upfront. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And when it happened, I was like, I'm here now. What can you do about it? And I'm very like happy to be part of DCW and everything they're doing, because I truly do believe they're one of the top independents right now. Might even be the number one. But like the family we have there, like I've made so many good friends, like Nick, and I have Allie, and I also have Effie as like my gay uncle, but they're all so supportive. And I feel like every time we get like a GCW show, there's always like a party going on, or like you can go hang out with these people. Oh, let's get food. And it's very like family-ish, where it's like, oh, we get to hang out this weekend, guys, and then go back home to our normal lives. But it's always great having like people there that you have very similar experience with. Like, especially me and Nick get along because we can talk about like our lives outside of wrestling. I'd be like, this is going on in school right now, and he can fill me in what's going on with him. And we have very like interesting lives to other people, but this is like our normal. So it's always great to have somebody like you can truly be like, you understand what's going on in my life. Let's talk.
And that's really blessed. And I've met Nick before as well. I saw him. That was the first time I saw Nick in the ring at that same GCW show. And I was just blown away from all of you, because it's especially by you and Nick, and you talk about having that commonality. You're around the same age range, you're still going to school, and you can lean on each other. And I understand you've also wrestled each other as well. So you're both coming up into this business that can be quite hard. But it seems as though for you both, the attitude is pretty much, I'm just riding the wave. I'm just going with the flow. And that's so refreshing. That's very refreshing, because for many others, it's hard to the point where you're thinking, well, this is my only livelihood. This is what I have, and I need this in order to put food on the table. And adding on to that, I bring that up because you recently were at SCI 2022. You had a few matches, but one of the first matches you had was with Robert Martyr. Now, I did my research, and the storyline is completely fascinating. It's really intriguing. I watched an interview that you both had with another interviewer, and you were kind of having your barbs and talking about your backgrounds. And one thing that I found really, really interesting in that storyline that I still think about to this day is the fact that Robert stated, he had to fight to get to where he is at the same age that you are now in the industry. And he wasn't afforded the same type of things that he felt that you've been afforded in terms of support. Do you find that at your age, you've gotten that kind of blowback at times where you feel as people think, well, because of your youth and because of what you're doing now, that is really something that other people didn't have. They didn't have the same support. They didn't have the same means. And what are your thoughts on that as well?
I definitely have seen people who haven't got the same support I have, and like they're coming up in wrestling, they were not treated the same because of their age and stuff like that. And I completely understand where their anger and stuff comes for towards me, but this is not something that I did to them. I've been very, very lucky that I've gotten what I have in wrestling, but I've also worked a lot for what I've gotten. And I feel like times have changed. Like a lot of the times people are like, "Oh, when I was doing wrestling at your age, life was like this, and this." But I think people develop and stuff changes, and wrestling has definitely changed over the years. And I've been very welcomed in wrestling. There's been times where I have dealt with like people are like, "Oh, you're this age, we don't want to use you, this and that." And I'm like, "Okay, I understand." Because people see it as a liability. But at my state, I see it like I am a performer like everybody else. And I've started to show that in the ring, and people have started to accept that, even though there's still some states I can't wrestle in because of my age. But that's just life, and you deal with it. And at some point, it will be all over because I will be 18 soon and can be wrestling anywhere I want.
This is facts. This is really true. And what do you think about this new guard of wrestling? You know, the main reason that I have this series and I wanted to put this series out for my show on PWI is because we feel there is a new era. There's a new era of wrestlers coming up that are around your age, Nick Wayne's age, etc. And you all are accomplishing some really fantastic things at your age, and it should be celebrated. What do you think about this new era, this new guard of wrestlers that are coming up that, as you were really alluding to, have a different attitude towards the business? And it's something that perhaps we've never seen before until now.
I'm very, very excited about it. But I think it's one of those things where I feel like everybody has a different journey. But I'm excited for like the next generation because I feel like we're all very hungry and want to show change and just make wrestling a better place for everybody.
I really love that. And that's what we all want, right? To make wrestling better for everyone, no matter what. And I love the fact that you yourself are dedicated to that. You know, you have wrestled so many people, so many fantastic peers, from Mickey Knuckles to, you know, I believe Deanna Parazzo. I'm going through the list in my mind. Nick Wayne, we talked about, just so many luminaries, so many people that we all see on television today, and we're just in awe, and we're also in awe of you. You know, when you look back at these matches that you've had throughout your nearly 4-year career and you think, okay, I'm doing it, this is where I am right now. What else would you like to accomplish in your career at this stage? What more, besides getting to a big promotion, should that happen? What more would you like to do?
I would just like to continue traveling and discovering new places. And I would love to be on the West Coast more. I love the scene out there, and the wrestlers that they're producing are fantastic. There's wrestlers like Titus and Nick, Sonico, and I've never wrestled Titus or Sonico, and I think they're amazing people. And I feel like they have a very unique way of wrestling. Me and somebody were talking about this other day that like each like area has their way of wrestling. There's Southern wrestling, there's Northeast wrestling, there's West Coast, and there's Midwest. I consider myself a Midwest wrestler. And everybody's like, yeah, we all have like little quirks about our wrestling, but at the end of the day, we all speak like the same language and are doing our own things.
Now, is there one style? You're a technical type wrestler, but is there one specific place within the country that you like more? Do you? It sounds like you're cool. You're comfortable being that Midwestern wrestler, but do you ever think, oh, I like the West Coast style more. I like the East, more. It is what it is.
When I, like, go to watch wrestling, most of the time, I'm watching stuff from, like, the Northeast, but I think that's more because I love their crowds. Because I found, when I watch, like, West Coast wrestling, I love Defy and, like, Prestige because I just love the energy their crowds have. Um, and it's entertaining to watch because you can see the wrestlers are fueled by it. Like, the more energy the crowd is giving, the more effort and energy the wrestlers are giving into their match.
Mm. And you raised some really good points. I mean, we're in a stage now. Like, I remember when I was coming up a few years ago in wrestling myself, and I'm from the Northeast. I'm still in the Northeast. And at that time, the Northeast was hot for wrestling. There's so much happening just within the North Jersey, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area alone. And now we're seeing this resurgence in the South side and really also the Midwest. The Midwest and the South, it's really booming, especially in Atlanta, Georgia, and Iowa. And there's so many different places within those regions. But the West Coast, it seems like we're going towards the West Coast. And I like the fact that you want to yourself wrestle more out there because it seems like there's something percolating there. There's something, really building there. And perhaps within this year and the next year, we're going to see some sort of resurgence. But of course, the pandemic hit, right? The pandemic hit about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, and things just within the independent circuit just flatlined. For you, what was that like, as you're starting off really early in your career and then all of a sudden people just can't go out and do shows and do what they love to do anymore?
It was very depressing, I'm not gonna lie. It was a very hard time for me. I was very lucky because I still had access to a ring and could go, like, roll around and train. Some people didn't even have that. But I was, like, hitting the point where I was, like, losing my mind. I was like, "I need to go wrestle on a show. I wanna be in front of people again. Like, this is all I wanna do and have fun." Because like, the first few months, I was like, "Okay, I can play video games and hang out." And then it got to the point where I was like, "I'm going to lose my mind if I stay in the house any longer." And then, like, I feel like it slowly started coming back, and you could feel when wrestling was coming back. And I felt like, okay, life is back to normal. And it was one of those moments where, like, I feel like that definitely showed my love for wrestling. Because I was like, oh my God, even though I took a break, I like feel like I should definitely be doing this right now.
Yeah, and absolutely for many people it was really hard, and it's really a testament to your fortitude and your strength that you were able to still have success and still do things and still stay busy, uh, as the world was pretty much quiet and people had to figure out how to live life just being stuck inside and quarantining. You mentioned Ali Ketch, who to me, she's pretty much one of the OGs of GCW, right? And especially when it comes to the woman of GCW, she's one of the first, if not the first, to be in that company. Being surrounded by Ali and seeing how she works and seeing what she's been able to do in her career and being a leader in the independent scene, what advice has she given to you in order to help you navigate the wrestling industry, especially as a woman?
Ali always just is telling me, "Be smart, don't make dumb decisions." And, like, I've known Ali, she's like an older sister where it's like, "Let's go have fun together, but don't do anything stupid, I'll snitch on you." Um, but she's, like, been around me since, like, I truly first started, because she was in Indiana and I would see her like all the time. We would run into each other, and then we were part of like a group together, so Ali was always super close to me. So just being able to like come up with her, there's been so many times where I feel like Ali's been like, here, let me go take care of the kid, or be like, don't do this, this is stupid, don't hurt yourself. And I'd be like, okay, Ali, because she's like my older sister and I know she's trying to take care of me at the end of the day.
Yes, and you also mentioned Effie. We love Effie. I've had him on the show before. Extremely intelligent and just a wealth of knowledge. And you mentioned him being pretty much your gay uncle. So, what is that like for you getting advice from Effie and seeing what he's been able to do in this industry thus far?
um He is so brilliant. Like, I feel like he's one of, like, the smartest people I've been around in wrestling. And he's definitely helped me a lot with, like, coming up with merch ideas and how to, like, become a business and more, like, character. Definitely when we had our match, he was like, take a moment here, be yourself, react to what's going on. And I feel like that clicked with me because I'm like, oh, this is what's going to get a reaction. This is what's going to get the crowd into it. And definitely like him saying like market yourself as a business, do this has definitely helped me see wrestling in a different light. But also like make wrestling more profitable, like make this into my business and what I want to do, um, and make money from it.
Hmm. So, what are some of the ways that you figured out how to do just that? Of course, merch being one of those, I could only assume because merch, once you have merch, you're good to go, but not quite because there seems to be much more different tangibles going into this. So, what are some other things that you've had to sit and think? Okay, I'm a business, I'm an entrepreneur, I need to make money from this besides wrestling matches and selling merch. Here's what I'm going to do.
It's definitely been like, oh, let me do podcasts and interviews to get my name out there. What can I do on social media? Let me post this, or like, what's going to go with what is Billie Starkz doing this weekend? And then definitely like having a look definitely sets you apart and will help with your marketing. Um, and I actually got this from like Shotzi Blackheart because there was a time when I first started that I was like changing my hair all the time and having different cool colors. And she looked at me and she was like, "You're good at wrestling. You understand what you want. To make yourself more marketable, choose a hair color and make that your thing." She was like, "If you have something, it's something people remember you by." Because she was like, "People will remember your name, but if they're like, oh, the blue haired girl or this, they'll be like, yeah, that's who I remember." And she was like, "It just makes yourself more marketable." So then I think this was during like the New Jersey, New York mania, and I was like, oh, she's right. And I just stuck with my blue hair for like years and years. And then when I knew I had to, like, I wanted a change, I knew I had to present that in wrestling in a way. So I waited till like New Year's and I was like, okay, New Year's, new bill. Let's do merchandise. Let's do this. And it was definitely like, okay, I'm starting to understand what it means to like market myself and know when I can do changes and when I can't.
That's extremely smart. And who better than to take that advice from than Shotzi Blackheart? I mean, look at where she is right now, and she is highly marketable. So that is very smart to take advice from someone such as her. And also, speaking of that, and we talked about school, and eventually you'll go off to college or you'll take college courses online, whichever you decide to do while you're pro wrestling. Have you thought of your major yet? What you would like to study as you go into that chapter in your life?
I have. I'm focusing on business and marketing,
There it is.
because that's what, like, in my head will help me succeed with wrestling, but also have a backup plan just in case I do hurt and break my body tomorrow. I have to go live a normal, quote unquote, life. So always have a plan B just in case, but I doubt that's going to happen.
Now, I doubt that's going to happen too. Let's be real, but we have to talk. You're speaking of injuries and breaking your back, Billy. What happened at SCI? We saw what happened. Anyone that loves you and knows you, we saw that crazy bump during that Robert Martyr match. So first of all, are you feeling okay? How is your back?
I'm actually feeling fine. Like the next day I was just a little bit sore, and the day after I was like, okay, it's basically gone now. And then I iced it and did like electrotherapy because I have like one of the machines at my house, and I was like back to normal again.
Okay. You're I love how you're like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And everyone was freaking out on social media because they saw the bump and they're thinking, oh my goodness, did she break her back? Is she okay? But that's a part of the business, right? That's what it is to be a pro wrestler. And you never know. You never know. So have you ever had those thoughts where you're thinking, oh my goodness, I need to maybe slow it down and just, preserve myself? Or are you pretty sure or pretty much at this point in your career where you're like, I know what I'm doing. I've trained. I've done this for so long. I'm really not scared or frightened about any bumps or anything of that nature that I could potentially take.
I've always just looked at like wrestling in a different way. So like I always look at like the risk of something and what I think I'm capable of. Because there has been things where I'm like, no, I won't do that. because I know the risk that comes with it and the likelihood of me getting hurt. But I like looked at that bump. I like went up on the ropes before the show. I looked and I was like, I can make that. And then I immediately went to the promoter and was like, hey, is this okay? If I dive to the outside off the top? And he was like, that is fine. And then I was like, okay, now I have to check with my mother. And I told my mom, and she was like, if you trust yourself, I know you can do this. This is your body and whatever you feel comfortable doing. She was like, just give me a signal that you're okay. And I was like, okay. And I was like fully committed to this idea because I like looked at it and I was like, I feel comfortable doing this because there's been things where I've been like, I don't know about this. This seems sketchy. um, but like definitely in that moment, I was like, I've hit the point in wrestling where I like know what hurts and know what doesn't. And I know what I can put my body through and what it can handle. Definitely from like the years of wrestling, it finally was like, okay, I think I get what my limits are and what I can and cannot do. And I feel like other people aren't fully comfortable with this idea yet because they're like, oh my God, what is she doing? And in my head, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 don't worry about it. And I just know it's people who worry about my safety and health. But don't worry, like, I am number one. I don't want to be hurt walking around. I have school on Wednesday. I can't waddle into school broken. Um, and I have my parents. My parents would never let me do anything too reckless or dangerous if they didn't think I could do it. Um, so yeah, that's like my idea on the spot. And everything is well and fine. And I don't think it's something I would do all the time. But it's something like I feel comfortable doing if the moment is right.
Mm. It's so refreshing to hear you say this. It really is because you're right. A lot of fans watching, they are concerned, and then you have fans that think, "Well, wrestlers, why are they doing these really crazy stunts because they need to preserve their body?" But I love the fact that you pretty much stated, you know what you're doing, you know your body, you're trained to do this, and you wouldn't do something if you didn't think that it was worth doing. And I think that's very important to state, particularly as a pro wrestler. You mentioned your parents, you've mentioned them several times in this interview, but specifically for your stepfather, Mouse, who, you know, he's known as a famous photographer in wrestling, and his shots are beautifully just well done. And he's been around for quite some time, and he obviously supports you in this endeavor. What advice has he imparted for you in forging this career and moving along and just making sure that you're safe and having fun?
Definitely like my ethic comes from him and my mother. But he's always like, go work out, go do this, go, 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 go. And he's always been super protective of me to the point where like sometimes I find it annoying. He's like, don't do that, don't do this. And I'm like, it's fine, Mouse, let me go do it. And he's like, nope, you're being a kid right now. We're a wrestler. We gotta be smart. And I was like, okay, okay. But he's always been there and looked out for me, and it's very, very much appreciated.
That's really cool. Really, really cool. A non wrestling question, you know, what do you like to do for fun, Billy? Besides wrestling, besides playing video games, besides hanging out with your friends, what else do you like to do while you're just out in the world and just being you?
I definitely love like blasting music, and it's to like the point where I'll just be like in my room doing whatever, just blasting music because it's something that like takes my mind off things. Because I am a very like overworking mind sometimes. Because I'm like, okay, my schedule, I need to do this, this, and this. Okay, this is coming up. I probably need to go do this later and this and this. But like for some reason, music just helps like slow down my brain, and I can just go focus on whatever I want to in the moment. So I very much enjoy that and painting. A good combo. If I play music and paint at the same time, it's just one of the most like relaxing things for me.
That I never would have guessed that. I love that you paint. Who are some of your favorite artists?
Ooh. So like I look at more like tattoo artists, and I follow a few on Instagram, but like I can't think of their names right now. And I just love like traditional style, but also where like sometimes they'll do like cartoony characters and very bright, colorful, like fun stuff. So like I love the good mix of like that styles of like traditional but with color.
That's cool. That's really cool. Are you a museum person? Do you like to go to the museums and just look at artwork?
Yes, I am. We're supposed to go to like the Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh my God, my brain.
One day there might just be a Leonardo
One day,
DiCaprio museum.
imagine it'd be perfect. Uh, the Da Vinci. They were doing one of his like showcases in Louisville, and me and my mother planned on going to that sooner or later, because I feel like it's a very like fun experience, and I love artsy stuff. And last time we also went to the giant forest where like they have a bunch of weird sculptures and art, and it's just like a hiking place that's in Kentucky, and we drove over to that. And it was very, very fun and very interesting. Me and my brother like took a bunch of pictures together for my mom.
Sounds right up my alley. I've never been to Kentucky, so I need to put that down on the list. That sounds really cool though and very relaxing. I like the sound of that. What are some of your favorite things that you like about Kentucky?
Um, I feel like for me, best especially in Louisville, it's very like connected. Everything is so close and easy to get to. And then we have like a very interesting downtown, like the Sluggery Museum. Oh, we also have the Derby and Oaks Day. And then like the Belle of Louisville. And this is like all normal to me, but seeing like some of my wrestling buddies and other friends who've never been to Louisville before, like interact with this stuff where like in my head, like this is my childhood. This is where I grew up. And them being like in all of like some of these things, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
I have to go now. It's been on my list for some time, but hearing it, it sounds really nice. It sounds like a different pace from where I am in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. But speaking of cities, could you see yourself ever living in a city or having that experience for yourself?
I would definitely love to, but at the same time, I don't think I could go on to like the level of like New York,
Mm,
where it's like I can't drive anywhere or like there's no parking. Like that in Chicago, I
mm.
feel like would be too much for me. I feel like I would get overwhelmed and I'd be like, oh my God, I hate it.
I don't blame you. It's a lot, especially if you're coming from someplace like Louisville, Kentucky, where it's just much slower pace. It can really jar the senses, but perhaps New Jersey, perhaps someplace right outside of New York. We'll see when you get there because it seems like there's so much more in store for you, Billie, and you have a bright future ahead of you. My last question that I have for you today, Billie Starkz, is for anyone that is wanting to become a pro wrestler, no matter, or even so, if they are around your age or younger, 13, 14, and they're looking at someone like you and thinking, I want to do what Billie Starkz is doing, what advice would you give to them?
Just be a good person. Like, honestly, that's gotten me so far in wrestling. And it's like a very welcoming thing. If you're a good person and treat others well, they want to help you and they want to see you exceed. And just work hard. If this is truly what you want, people will help you get there, but you are your best, best thing going for yourself. And you can succeed with anything. It's all about yourself.
Amen. And we can't wait to see what happens next for you, Billie. We know that you will continue to succeed. You have the right mindset. You have a lot going, and we're so excited for you. We just cannot wait to see what happens next. So thank you so much for joining me on FaceTurn with Candace Cordelia. That's really all I can say. You are fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, Billie. And thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of our Rising Star series here on FaceTurn with Candace Cordelia. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, check out what Billie is doing, both in the ring and outside. Follow her on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and the like. Check out her merch. And please support independent wrestling. Thank you once again for watching. And until next time, we'll see you later.